Hi everyone, welcome to another coffee break. My name is Zeki Gokce. I have my Turkish coffee for the coffee break. Sean, you're in UK. A little later
Got
there.
it.
Is it Earl Grey due to your age? You don't want to have
No,
too much
coffee,
caffeine?
coffee too, coffee too.
Coffee as well. All right. My name is Zeki Gokce. I work for Eddyfi Technologies in the Houston office. I've been doing advanced NDT for 15 years, most of it with guided waves. And today we have here Sean Hughes, who is joining us from Cambridge, UK. Sean has been doing training and guided wave for close to 20 years. And we would like to discuss today with you the evolution of guided wave training. We think it's important because with the COVID and changing world, we got a lot of questions. So we figured this would be a good thing to address. Um, if you have any questions, go ahead and write that on the comment section, and we'll address them. And if we don't have time to ask, or if you think of something else, you can always email us at the end of the session. We'll give our email addresses. So with that, Sean, can you give us a little bit feedback or a history of the training of guided wave, how it came about, so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we're talking about the evolution of guided wave training, we need to look at kind of where it started. The original training course was developed at TWI. It was an in-house training course and had a duration of 40 hours. That duration was split between kind of 50% theory and 50% hands-on. And when I say hands-on, I mean physically using the equipment and also being taught how to interpret the A-scan signals. There was an end of course exam. However, that was an in-house exam only. There was no kind of independently certified verification, and also there were no levels of proficiency. So there was no level kind of 1, 2, and 3 like we get now. And also back then, the courses were a little bit more difficult, and that was because the software and the hardware weren't quite as advanced. So there was a bigger onus on the operator to have a really strong understanding of guided waves. They had to manually import dispersion curves and know which frequencies were optimized. So it was more difficult to learn back then.
So as the equipment get better and the software get better, what was the natural progression of the training?
That's a good question, because that it's twofold really. The training, the evolution of the training was led by both industry and technology, and what I mean by that is sort of end users and clients were saying to us that we want the software to be more automated. We want decisions taken away from operators, and that will potentially rule out human error. So that was important to us, and when we kind of looked at designing the new system, kind of that was designed into the software. So obviously, with all the new equipment, all of the new software, the training had to change. There was big changes there, and we wanted to make sure at the time that we brought in lots of improvements. That we'd identified lots of improvements, and we used that opportunity to bring those in. One of the things that we wanted to do, because we knew we had a really high quality class and a high quality course, we wanted to get independent verification, and what I mean by that is a kind of standardized approval of proficiency. And we got that through C-Sweep, and that's the certification scheme for welding and inspection personnel. And these guys have been going for about 50 years. And what they did is essentially they audit the course to make sure it conforms to a standard, and the standard they use is ISO 9712. So they make sure the content and the syllabus are to the standard, and also people, like the lecturers and invigilators, they had to be approved. You couldn't just kind of come on and give the training. You had to demonstrate a kind of level before you could do that. You also had to kind of go and train the trainer courses and make sure that obviously, yeah, you know your stuff, but can you teach people in a class environment? So that they were the main improvements we made when we kind of switched over to that new system.
So as guided waves become more mainstream and more people jumped on it, did you see any challenges, stuff that you would have to address
Yeah,
with the training?
once we got kind of the C-SWIP approval, and that was quite a hard process. We had to do a lot of hard work to get that approval. We kind of had a 40-hour level 1 course and a 40-hour level 2 course. And what we felt, although we got really good feedback from our clients, but what we felt internally was that 40 hours wasn't enough to prepare individuals for site work. Anyone that works on the site will know that there's a wide range of applications that we could be doing. From very very simple scenarios to quite complex scenarios. And we felt like 40 hours wasn't enough to train these guys in that situation. Now we know there are courses out there that give you basic training, then you can go back and do additional modules for specific applications. In reality, I don't think that model works, because if you train people just to do basic pipe, they're not going to turn down work in more complicated situations. They've paid for the equipment, they're going to want to use it, they want to earn money with it. So the model that we selected was let's get these individuals kind of site ready, and what we did is we increased the 40 hours for the level 1 to 80 hours. That's 100% increase. It was a bold move at the time, but what it done, it fell in line with other ultrasonic technologies. If you think about UT, time of flight diffraction, phased array, getting to level 2 is 120 hours. So now we had a level 1 of 80 hours and a level 2 of 40. So we fell in line with that perfectly. And we felt, and also students felt, that when they left that 80-hour course, they felt ready to go out on site, because they had that additional training. They had an additional 40 hours to go through lots of different sample data. We had huge amounts of data, huge libraries of data that we'd collected from real pipelines with real corrosion. We provide the students with drawings. So they saw lots and lots and lots of different scenarios. Scans that had excellent data quality, scans that had poorer data quality, and the differences and the difficulties in dealing with both of those. So yeah, the feedback we got from that was fantastic.
How about the? Did you get other feedback? Maybe some people thought it was challenging because now it's twice
Yeah,
as long.
no, yeah, that it's a good question, and yeah, we realised that obviously, the benefits for the students, that's obvious, but it's quite difficult sometimes for our clients to lose their personnel for 2 weeks. The guided waves isn't their only technology. They've got other work commitments, other inspection commitments, and also if you're putting a number of people on a course, to find 2 weeks in a calendar where these individuals are free is quite difficult logistically. Also, think about I suppose the additional associated costs in you know the expenses from a lecturer being at your facility for an additional week, or sending a team of guys to an Eddyfi location to do the training, and the hotels and the expenses associated with that. You've got that additional costing. So we realised that although it wasn't a huge problem, and we still got lots of interest in that course, we wanted to try to ease that burden for our clients.
So I suppose that's when we made the decision to go to the blended learning. Can you give us some details on the benefits,
Yeah,
or what is a blended learning for people who don't know?
yeah. So blended learning is a mix of different learning formats, and what we've got here at Eddyfi is we have an e-learning portion of the training and a classroom portion of the training. Now the reason why we felt like we could do that was one, we'd looked at this in the past. It was very difficult. It's very difficult to generate an e-learning course. But the benefits are kind of twofold. We talked about the benefits of reducing hours for end customers, but the specific benefits of kind of e-learning for students are great. You know, if you think about kind of learning autonomy, you know, the students are able to study at, you know, their own time. They can take charge of you know, their own study periods, and do that at a time that suits them. They can also study at the right pace. You know, we all learn at different levels, and particularly when we're doing something that's challenging, being able to study at your own pace is really important. You know, if I think about classroom training, you know, this kind of takes out some cultural issues. You know, in certain parts of the world, people are great at asking questions, and as a lecturer, it's fantastic when people are asking questions, because you get an idea of what they're understanding and what they're not understanding. But in certain parts of the world, people don't like doing that. You know, they feel like it's kind of losing face. So e-learning kind of takes that problem away, because people can repeat content. If there's something that's challenging, they can go over it and go over it until they've got it. It also offers a mix of content styles. You know, there's kind of videos in there. There's interactive content. It's not just a kind of death by PowerPoint situation. Also, e-learning is proven to increase student retention. You know, because it's engaging, people remember the content more. And it also gives a really good level of consistency. And what I mean by that is, if you've got a selection of lecturers delivering content in a classroom, they'll all have their own styles, and they'll all deliver that message differently. So the e-learning gives a fantastic consistency. You know, we were able to do this because, you know, we're really lucky at Eddyfi that we've got the virtual academy. And we've got a team of experts that, you know, that this is what they do. They develop fantastic e-learning content. So they were the ones that really enabled us to kind of get these courses into this format. Yeah, and we're really proud and lucky to have them.
I guess the other aspect of it, it also saves time and money. You know, you don't have to travel there, or people don't have to travel. So at least for 1 week, you could do it at your own pace, and so forth. So
yeah. Also, as well, you know, there might be people out there that only want to do the e-learning, and that's an option. So, you know, there would be no travel associated with that. You know, they can do it, you know, from their desk at any time they wanted to.
So okay, the 2 week course, you were able to take care of the theory part with the e-learning. How about the hands-on part? How do you address that?
Yeah, so once the candidates kind of finish their e-learning, they are then able to attend the kind of classroom sessions, and the classroom sessions deal more with kind of the hands-on aspects, and also kind of the kind of interpretation part of it. You know, classroom sessions are important. You know, I really like the classroom sessions as a lecturer. You know, whenever we're trying to deliver a message, you know, whenever we're trying to communicate, there are always kind of barriers to our communication. You know, when we're live with a group of people, it's easy to kind of identify barriers to communication. You can see that, you know, non-verbal cues, you know, engaging with people, and really getting an idea if they're understanding. But also, you know, one of the things I like about the classroom training is, obviously, you get to build relationships with your clients, and you know, that's really important to me. Also, you know, it's the hands-on time. This is the time that the guys get equipment in hands. They get to use it, and they've got an instructor with them to lead them through them sessions. You know, giving them more guidance at the start, but towards the end of the class, really just watching and making sure that, you know, everyone's doing everything correct. So the classroom-based training is a really critical portion of the training. Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, we have been living with COVID for a year now, and the classroom portion, I guess it's changed a little bit. Now we also offer that virtually, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, it's true. You know, that's, you know, COVID is changed the way we work in many ways, and it's changed, you know, the way we train people. So what we're able to do now is we're able to conduct the classroom-based sessions virtually. Can be quite challenging, but obviously we make sure that the candidates have the equipment in hand. But with virtual training, there are additional barriers to communication. Obviously, you're not able to engage as easily one-to-one with a person. Kind of these non-verbal cues are kind of harder to read over the internet. There's issues with kind of internet connections, hardware and software issues. Someone got a decent audio equipment, and also making sure that everyone that joins that virtual session has got an adequate training environment. I've seen certain situations where there's kind of noise in the background, and that's really difficult. Obviously, it's really difficult to keep people's attention. So one of the things that we made sure we did, while we were dealing with this virtual training, was to try to mitigate all of these barriers to communications, and basically we offer advice to our clients of sending advice on recommended systems and hardware, and also ensuring that everyone understands kind of the kind of virtual class etiquette. It's really easy for people to start talking over each other. That it happens in meetings as well. So we use the kind of virtual hand raise thing to make sure that everyone can ask questions, and also they can be answered, and everyone's listening. It just stops that kind of chaotic back and forward communication.
Yeah, just to add, like here in Houston, we basically build a kit where we could send it to the customers that has cameras and so forth with a little easy to follow recipe.
Absolutely.
So basically that's like the minimum thing that they can start with.
Yeah, one of the things that we've done here recently, one of my colleagues, he delivered a virtual course. I think it was last week, and he was having to start at 5 a.m. just to kind of fall in line with the kind of local hours for our clients. I think they were in Southeast Asia, and obviously that's thinking about that's a barrier to communication as well. Is if we're training people in unsociable hours, they've already done a full day's work. It's difficult for them to kind of take in that content. So we make sure that the timings are correct for the students as well.
Yeah, and I bet it's better than going there, and he gets to sleep in his own bed, even though he wake up a little early.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what are the training options? Is it only virtual now, or are there other options available?
So there are a number of options. Obviously, we talked about the e-learning. The e-learning is obviously a part of the blended learning package, but it's also a training course in its own right. So, this type of training course would be really useful for an end user. So someone that has guided wave companies coming onto site. They might be an engineer that gets a guided wave report and wants to understand more about that technology. You may want to understand a little bit more about how to interpret the A scans, and not to be so reliant on their customers giving them that information. So obviously they can do that from their own desk. So that's that would be a great course for engineers and end users. With the full blended learning package, this is recommended for anyone that's going to be working on site. This course has been designed specifically for that. People that are going to be going on site and kind of running projects. It covers several modules. I think that there's 7 modules on the e-learning, and then we've got the kind of interpretation and the hands-on in class. But we always talk about guided wave training, but one of the things that we try to do on our courses is we try to teach them to become pipe inspectors. Guided wave training is that's just one tool they've got when they're on site. There's lots of other things they can do on site to kind of help them out. So we cover all that as well. The examinations at the end, the CSWIP examinations are optional. Most people take them because they want that, I suppose that badge of proficiency that I've attained this certain level, but they're not optional. And also we do a lot of bespoke training for our clients, and that may be training for a specific application, or quite commonly, a customer will come back to us and say, look, can we have some refresher training? Can you do us a 2-day course? Our guys have been using phased array for the last few months, and we've got a big guided wave job coming up. So can you do some refresher training for us? And yeah, so we can do that. So there's lots of options there.
And of course, the hands-on part of it could be in one of our Eddyfi locations or in the customer location, provided they do have.
Yeah, that's a great point actually, and a lot of the time, customers like us to come to their place, and yeah, we can do that. We've got places, Eddyfi locations in which they can study. We've got some great facilities, Eddyfi. So we always kind of recommend they do that, but we realise that's not always possible. So what we do in that situation is we send, if a client says, can we kind of conduct the training at our own location, we send out basically a questionnaire that assesses the suitability of that location. And if we feel that location is suitable, it's a good training environment, they're going to provide us with the kind of the right samples, then absolutely that's something that we do very frequently.
So we've been talking for about 20 minutes now. How would you summarize like the evolution of our training and so forth?
I think that the training has come a long way. It's something that we're really proud of. The feedback we get from industry is excellent. And we take great pride in knowing that we not only provide industry leading training, and we felt that we've been industry leaders for years, but now with the e-learning, the blended learning, we're the provider of the most versatile guided wave training course available.
Great. So there's some questions coming along. So let me just go through some of those. One question is, does the e-learning training need to be completed before the classroom training?
Yes, the e-learning it does. So when the candidates do the e-learning, one of the things that they have to do is they kind of have to complete that, demonstrate a level of proficiency, because when they come into the classroom, there are certain assumptions that are made, and that is they have a certain level of knowledge. So yes, they would need to do that first.
And also the e-learning part of it is open for a year after they start, right? So they can always go back and refresh the theory part of it, and there's some videos of hands-on parts of it too. So it's not just for the little
Absolutely.
duration between. Okay, great. Another question was, I think you touched on it a little bit. Once you go through the level 1, pretty much we cover everything, right? Like from buried pipes to other things. There's no additional certificates or tickets and things like that.
Yeah, that's a good question, and yeah, it's something that we looked at. We realised there are models out there that do this, and it was something that we looked at, and we thought long and hard about how we were going to approach that. What we didn't want to do is we didn't want to train people to do basic pipe and then go out there and be in a situation where they would be faced with advanced applications. So the model that we used is let's train them for everything, and we feel that works really well. In practice, we know that they're not always going to be faced with simple situations, and that's why we go through multiple scenarios in the e-learning and the classroom-based portion of the training.
Another question is how we gauge the competency of students during the e-learning stages.
Yeah. Okay. So the e-learning is made up of, I think it's around about 7 modules. I'm not 100%, but I think it's 7 modules, and these modules are done in a specific order. Now, to progress from module 1 onto module 2, you have to demonstrate a certain proficiency. So there'll be an end of module exam. You kind of get quiz questions as you go through the content, but when you get to the end of the module, you complete an assessment. If you achieve over 70%, you're then able to start module 2. If you don't, if you get below 70, you then have to revisit some of the areas that you answered incorrectly, and then you can do the examination again. So you can only move on to a subsequent module when you've demonstrated a level of proficiency. And when you get to the end of module 7, you do an end of course module, which is basically your ticket into the classroom. So once you've done the end of course exam, that's what says, okay, I'm now able to go to the classroom-based training.
Of course, knowing you don't just take that at, like, right in the beginning of the class, we still have a little quiz and
Yeah,
gauge
absolutely.
the
So
level.
that's the first thing that we do on day one of the classroom-based course is we give the candidates a quiz, and really that the main aim of that quiz is just to identify, the retention, how much they've remembered, and also is there any areas that the lecturer might need to focus on as part of that training. And the quiz questions are very much based on the questions they would have already had in the e-learning. So there is an expectation that they would score fairly well, and do score fairly well in that quiz.
So that's pretty much all the questions. There's one question regarding the software, but we'll address that separately, since we're not covering that. That's the end of our coffee break. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email me or Sean. I think our emails have been shared. So we're looking forward to getting some emails. You guys have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.